as well as having a productive IEP meeting. We also want to break down each section of your notebook and provide examples that go in each section. We also want to ensure that the training is going to be helpful and useful and relevant to you. So we're going to do some interactive stuff. I'm going to ask you to also complete an evaluation at the end to tell us how you liked it, how we did. And these help us to continuously improve on trainings. And so it should only take you a couple of minutes to complete that. And everybody that completes it, you'll get a copy of the PowerPoint if you desire it. You'll get a copy of any of the handouts that we refer to as we go through the presentation, as well as a certificate of attendance if you need that. If at any time during the presentation you happen to lose audio or video, you can call in using the phone number that was included in your registration confirmation. We encourage you to submit any questions in the chat, and we will have a question and answer time at the end of the training. All right, so I am Latanzia Montgomery, and some of you may remember me as the educational specialist. I no longer work in that capacity, but I do work as a trainer. And so today I will be your presenter for this training. I'm a mom of 5 young men. 3 of those guys have ASD. And I've taught in special education for 14 years, and I specialize in working with children and young adults with ASD. So, but my job here today, though, is to help provide some information or in educational workshops with families helping families. So I'm super excited that I still get an opportunity to participate in the education part of things. So if you have any questions, you can always feel free to contact Families Helping Families. Co-hosting with me today is the beautiful Executive Director of Families Helping Families, Ms. Chanel Jackson. And so she'll be assisting me today with questions and some communications that you may put in the chat. So we're extremely excited to hear what you have to say. And so I want to tell you just a little bit about Families Helping Families because they are amazing. Families Helping Families Region 7 is one of 10 nonprofit family resource centers in the Families Helping Families network of centers. And so they're here to provide support of parents, youth, and young adults with disabilities or special healthcare needs. And this is done through individual assistance, information sharing, with outreaches and trainings as well. And so we're going to break the ice a little bit. Now that we got introductions out of the way, let's start with a little game of Would You Rather? And so this will allow you to practice participating in the chat box with me, and it'll be fun. And your answers can just be 2-word answers, 1-word answers. And the questions, I'll give you about 10 seconds to respond. And if you find you need more time, just let me know. Raise your hand or something, right? All right, so the first one is, would you rather eat nothing but vegetables, or would you rather eat nothing but fruit? What would be your favorite thing to do? What would you rather do?
All right, we have Maria. She says vegetables. What about you, Latanzia? What would you rather eat?
I have a sweet tooth. So I think it'd probably have to be fruit.
And see, I'm gonna have to go with Maria. I'm gonna have to go with the vegetables. We have Nicole. She agrees with you. She says she would rather eat fruit.
Yeah, I gotta, have a little something. Just
And Crystal says she can't even choose. She just likes everything.
you go, Crystal.
Flo Shay, she says fruit as well.
That's awesome. Our next one. Would you rather work as a full-time nanny or a full-time cook?
Oh my God, Latanzia, I don't want to work as either.
At least one.
Nicole says nanny. Zandra says cook. I think someone else says nanny, but it's moving so fast. Jessica says nanny. Crystal says nanny. Floshay says nanny. What would you rather do?
I would rather be a nanny because Chanel, I hate to cook.
Oh well, look.
I do not like cooking. I promise I don't.
I do. I mean, I like cooking sometimes, but not all the times. And I do not like watching kids unless it's my own. So that's why I said
And then we have one more. Would you rather go on an all expense paid cruise or would you rather live in Hawaii?
ooh.
That's a tough one, huh?
But you know what? Okay, so Maria says Hawaii. Jessica says Hawaii.
Okay.
Um, Cruises are not that expensive, So I think I will probably have to choose Hawaii as well, even though the cost of living is higher in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I have to choose two. Oh,
You're
Maria
like,
said she had her honeymoon in Maui. Oh, pray for Maria.
ooh, that's
Maui is nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I think I'd be like more like Maria. I want to visit Hawaii, but give me the cruise. Let's hit the water, baby.
Oh, you want to hit the water? Okay.
Well, let's hit the water. So thank y'all for participating. I love those answers.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. So we're going to talk about our learning goals today. We're going to talk about some frequently used acronyms, just some acronyms that I want you to kind of have in your mind. But included in the IEP notebook, those of you that finish our fill out our evaluation form, there will be included in that packet of stuff actual a big page of acronyms for special education. So please complete those evaluations so you can get that good stuff. And then we're going to talk about getting organized, how important that is. And then we'll talk about the different sections of the notebook. There's several of those. And then we'll talk about some resources that we have. All right, we're going to do a quick little check-in. And all I want you to put in is if you agree or if you disagree. And this is just kind of how you feel. I just kind of want to get a feel of how you feel about getting organized and that stuff. And so number one says, I am confident and I know how to prepare for my child's IEP meeting. Do you agree with that statement or do you disagree with that statement? I feel confident and I feel like I know how to prepare for my child's IEP meeting. Looks like we're getting some answers, Chanel. Let's see.
I'm
Uh,
sorry, Latanzi. I was mute. It's kind of half and half. So we have half that agree, we have half that disagree. So we just
okay,
want to make sure for the ones that disagree, we're going to make sure we change that to agree.
absolutely. Another one says, I know how to do a good parent concern statement. Now that's a big deal, guys. I've seen several IEPs that says no parent concern.
So Nicole says she's agrees. Zandra agrees. Again, this is half and half, Latanzia.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And then thirdly, I understand how to get organized. I know how to create an IEP notebook, and I know how to prepare for this meeting. So hopefully we can help with that today. If some of you say you don't agree with that.
Yeah, we have some that disagree.
Okay,
So
good stuff,
yeah,
right?
good
So we
stuff.
got some work
Yeah.
to do tonight, right? Mhm.
Yeah.
And then lastly, you feel confident in being assertive at the IEP meeting because you're the biggest advocate. How do you feel? Are you confident, asserting yourself, making your voice heard in the IEP meeting, or are you a little bit more on the shy side? So, are you confident? Do you agree that you're confident in speaking up on behalf of your child, or you think we need some work? So, do you agree with that, or you disagree? Like, do you need some little pointers on that?
We have quite a few agrees, but then we have some that says that they disagree. They need pointers. They feel like their voice is not heard and
Oh,
that they
that's
don't
good.
listen and that they don't listen.
I got you. That's awesome. Okay. Well, perfect. So let's jump into it then. All right, so let's talk about some acronyms. And so one of the few of the acronyms um, are is IDA. Now that is the biggie, IDEA. That's what special education is based on, and that's the Individuals with Disabilities Act, the federal special education law. The LRE is the least restricted environment. Is basically where will your child receive their services for special education. And then we have FAPE, which stands for Free Appropriate Public Education. This is the cornerstone of IDEA. Then we have IEP, right? The Individual Education Plan. And that's the plan that directs all the special education and related services for your child. And the ODR, the officially designated representative, this is a person who is authorized to sign off and commit the school district resources for whatever they say that your child needs, whether that's a communication device, low tech, high tech. Um, if they are visually impaired, they may need some kind of computer that enlarges things. So whatever the child needs, you need an ODR that can commit those resources to that. And then finally, we have SMART goals. This stands for specific, measurable, attainable, results are oriented, and timely. And then there are bulletins that I want you to be aware of, and it would be great to familiarize yourself with. And it's Bulletin 1508, which is the Pupil Appraisal Handbook. Bulletin 1530 is the IEP Handbook for Students with Exceptionalities. And then Bulletin 1706 is a regulation for the implementation of the Children's with Exceptionalities Act. All right, so let's jump into it. So getting organized is so important. So we want you to consider creating an IEP notebook. Um, and so I briefly want to go through the sections. Well, I don't want to briefly. We're not going to go through them briefly. We're going to actually take some time with them. So we're going to take some time with each section, and we're going to go in depth with those sections. And I want to explain each one. This can be key to having an effective IEP meeting. It also can help you with being assertive. And so nobody wants to hear about what someone said, but you can't remember, you can't remember who you talked to. You can't remember who sent you this, or you lost the paper. So instead of all of that, we want you to organize those documents in a way that makes sense to you. And so we recommend a basic IEP binder system. And you're going to need probably about a 3-inch binder with 3 rings, and it's usually perfect to keep. It's a perfect size to keep all of your school year worth of documents. So it also allows you to put all of your paperwork in one place, and you can easily find the information you need throughout the year, and not just during the IEP meeting. So we're gonna go through some of the sections. So let's get into it. All right, so the first step to getting organized is making sure that you bring your binder with you to IEP meetings. So it does you no good to get a binder started if you're not going to bring it with you, right? So the whole point of having it is to bring it with you. And so there's going to be so many important things that I'm going to help include in there for you that needs to be included with you. So you'll see why you need to bring that binder. You want to come to the IEP meeting prepared to take notes. And actually, in the meeting section of the binder, which we'll get into, I actually include several note pages, right? You want to have a parent concern statement already ready. And so I have a section in the binder that says concerns. Um, and then you want to use a SMART goal template. You want to make sure that the goals that they're setting for your child are specific, that they're attainable, right? You want to make sure that it's a time frame on it, that it's measurable. So you don't want to just say, them just to say a random goal, or something. You want it to be specific enough, and you want your child to be able to obtain it. And then we want you to use the parking lot concept to jot things down that pop in your head. So if something pops in your head while you're going in the meeting, we have note pages for that, right? So we want to make sure all of that's done in there. So take as many notes as you like, and you can go home and type them up if you like. But you want to keep those notes in your binder because you want to be able to follow up on those notes. Anything that you've written down, you want to follow up on it and see, anything they say they're going to do in the meeting. Then you want to follow up on is how's that going? Oftentimes things may pop into your head, but you might not be the appropriate time to bring them up. And so we that's what we call parking lot items. And so we park them until it's time to bring them up. All right, so let's jump into the very first section of your IEP binder. And so that first section is going to be information about your child. This is the section that includes information. Where do you see your child's strengths? What are your greatest concerns? What strategies have you found that are most effective when dealing with your child? And that includes whether it's positive or even if it's difficult behaviors. And so I included a copy of what that kind of looks like. And so information about your child kind of includes your child's name, your date of birth, and age and stuff. Also, think about, especially if your child has like ASD or if your child has Downs or some other things going on, you may want to talk about what are their likes, what are their dislikes, right? What are your child's strengths? What are your child weaknesses? Especially if you're entering a new school year and you're going into it's a brand new teacher that you've never seen before, you need to bring something, right? Tell them about your kid because nobody knows your child better than you do. And so it's important. And so I include this paper in the binder. So this is the very first section of your binder because it's all about our kids at the end of the day, right? And so the binder is about them, the binder is about them, and so we want to include information about them. So you want to go to the meeting prepared to talk about your kid, not just listen to other people talk about your child, but you want to be able to talk about your kid. I think that's really, really, really important, right? So that's why it's the very first page. All right, you are the biggest advocate for your baby, right? So this is when you're going to draft parent concerns, review. You want to make a list of things, right? I used to go to meetings and I had an agenda. Hello, right? I came with my own agenda and we were going to cover every item that I wanted to cover. And so I would encourage you to do that too, especially if you've had some issues with the school or issues with teachers or whatever the case may be. Write those down. What is your list? What do you want to review? Right? They're there for the IEP meeting, but it's about your kid. And so you can take your agenda and go over make sure you cover everything that you want to cover, not just them covering what they want to cover. Right. And there's not a limitation to the length of your parent concerns, but never, ever, 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 ever go to a parent IEP meeting and say, you have no concerns at this time. You always have a concern, right? Do you think he's going to reach his goal by the end of the school year? That's a concern, right? Do you have smaller steps in for them to reach the goal? What are so if they're supposed to maybe like a pre-K kid, they're supposed to count to 20 by the end of the IEP year. So how are you going to make sure this happens? What are you going to do? What are the steps you're going to take? What are some milestones, right? Are they going to, start out with them counting to 5, right? Ask those questions, right? And so it says if possible, send in advance to the meeting. That would be great. But if you don't, hey, that's okay. They can type at me. Any slack. I'm sorry. Listen, I don't cut them any slack. So, because you are an important part of this meeting, you really are. And so, regardless of how you do it, keep your language polite and professional. Here's one thing that's really tough for us as parents, and that's staying emotionally level. So try to avoid emotionally charged statements, right? Keep using the facts. Um, Try to look at it as you're on the outside looking in and actually see yourself as your child's advocate, right? And so an advocate goes in and they're calm and easygoing, right? And they're objective. You're going to have to kind of operate that way, and you're going to get more things done that way. Discuss what is and what may not be working and what you've seen working. Clearly state your concerns. You can also provide recommendations and solutions that could be helpful. All right, so let's go to the next section. This is the referrals section, and this talks about like doctor's referrals or school referrals. And so all referrals are kept in this section. So many times doctors will write the results of a referral visit on a referral form. This is a great way to keep information and get information back to the referring doctor. You should also keep names of doctors or individuals that you have been referred to in this files. Teachers or school staff may also give you referrals, right? They may say, hey, why don't you um, go see a behavioral specialist. This is a referral. But you should keep all referrals in this section. And so that section is pretty cut and dry. Now, the next section is where we're probably going to spend the majority of our time. This is a big deal, the meeting section, right? So we talked earlier about having an agenda for the meeting. Telephone logs go in this one, and meeting notes. So included in this section are handouts on preparing for the meeting. And so you'll see I'll have a pre-meeting checklist. And so I'm just going to read some things that are on the pre-meeting checklist. We have prior notice received. What day did you get that, right? There's a place to write a date for that. The meeting invitation signed and returned. When did you sign it and when did you return it? And this is also a place because sometimes when you get those letters, they don't send you two copies. You sign it, you send it back, and you don't write it down. So this is a place to write down when the meeting is. Did you receive a copy of the goals or any evaluation? Did your child receive an invitation to the meeting, depending on that child's age? Did you speak to the teacher regarding the concerns you have or the skills that you would like to see? What goals and objectives you want to see your kid do? Did you review your child's latest evaluation report? There's actually a place in the binder for that as well. Did you review your child's most current IEP? And you won't believe, I mean, maybe you probably will, but some of those IEPs, they cut and paste, so you got to be careful, right? So if you reviewed your child's last IEP before you go to the meeting, then you'll know if they just copied and pasted and didn't change anything, right? So you don't want them just copying and pasting, from one year to the next year, and we never accomplish a goal. That's a problem, right? And then they have to explain why. Why did you do that? Why are you copying and pasting? There was some explaining to do. And then you want to review your child's most recent IEP progress reports. And sometimes parents, we don't always check our progress reports, right? We let teachers get away with that. And as a teacher, I've been guilty of not sending those in a timely manner. So, and with that being said, parents hadn't even called me on it, right? And so it's so important that you do look for those IEP progress reports. That's important. Review your child's report card grades. How are they performing? If they say, a child has sufficiently progressed in ELA, but they have an F, that's not sufficient progress, right? And then did you review the state test scores, the benchmark scores? Have you reviewed any behavior plans they may have or any write-ups, right? So you want to just have your ducks in a row. And this form, this pre-meeting checklist will let you know. And then another one says, are you aware of the services that the district provide? Are you aware of the education policies and regulations within your district? And so, and if you need it, have you contact an advocate? So that's a pre-meeting checklist that's included in the meeting section. Also in this section is included telephone logs. And so there I have 3 different types of telephone logs that are included in the binder. So it is important to document phone conversations, right? We think parents should keep the information shown on telephone logs. You need the time, the date. You need the person you talk to. You need to write down the important information that was discussed. So those are so important, right? Telephone logs. Also meeting notes. So you're going to have a section for comments. You're going to have, I mean, concerns. I'm sorry. You have a section for concerns. You're going to have a section for questions. And there's a section for notes. So also, this is also inside of the meeting section. So whenever parents go to a meeting with the school personnel, you should also keep meeting notes. Meeting notes don't have to be on a piece of paper. On the note paper, if you don't want to, you can get a piece of notebook paper if you want. But you should have information that's important to you. Put down any meeting notes, anything they tell you, anything you want to remember, you want to jot that down. And all of that's kept in your meeting section. Also in the meeting section is a copy of your parental rights, right? So that's important to keep there. They always give you a small one, but on the LDOE site, you can actually print a nice size one that's actually readable, because that small one, it has small writing. But I also encourage you to read those. They're really important to read. In the meeting sections are also included a parent questionnaire that kind of gives you, it helps you get your concerns down. What are your greatest concerns about your child's education? What might the school do to assist you with your child's concerns? So maybe your child needs potty training. What can they do to assist you with potty training? In the past year, has your child seen a doctor for anything other than a common illness? Has your child been seen by a health professional or physical, emotional problems that interfere with his or her success in school? So it's just it's a parent questionnaire that kind of gets your thoughts on paper, jogs your memory, gives you something to think about. So if you don't have any concerns, this questionnaire will help you kind of home in your thoughts and get you on the right track of figuring out what is it that I want my baby to accomplish. Because you don't want to just go into the meeting and let them make all the decisions for your kid, right? Because you want to have a part in it. Because without your child, there would not be a meeting. And without you, we wouldn't know about your kid. You are the person that has the most information. And so we need to hear from you. And so that's really important. Like I said, sometimes you can have an agenda um, that you want to, the important points that you want to go over. Sometimes important information, again, is relayed through phone calls. You want to have your reminder of coming IEP meetings in this section. Whenever you're speaking to school personnel in a meeting, they're making meeting notes, so should you. Also included in this section is a school contact list. So I have also included a place for you to put your IEP team and their phone numbers, right? Or their email address. So inside of this section is also a school contact list. It has a section for the teacher. It has a section for the principal. Your OT, your PT. So in the meeting, you could ask, what's your name? You could jot their name down. What's your email address? You can get their email address. What's your phone number? So there's a place in the meeting section of the notebook for you to be able to jot down all those things. So I'm super excited about that. So it's important for you to know where these are. And so also in this section, you want to keep a copy of your prior written notices. Okay, so those are all part of your meeting section. All right, so again, I talked about creating that priority list, prioritize the list by what's important, focus on the problems and solutions. All right, so you're not really there for the people. You're there to focus on your kid. It's not about who likes you, who doesn't like you. We don't care if they like you or not. That's not important. All you care about is that you're going to do what you got to do to make sure that my kid is successful, because that's why they're there. So some of the questions you may want to ask is how will things be different this year to ensure that more progress is made, especially if you've noticed that the goals are similar to what they were last year. And then you tell me about the different programs. What will you be using? How can I support my kid at home? So what I found is that it's so important that whatever we're doing at school, for the parent to also duplicate that at home and vice versa. So if something's working for you at home for your baby, then it's also important for us to, to have that duplicated at school. It's really, really important. Um, then ask them, how long will you implement this program to determine if it's successful? What is the plan if the program proves not to be successful? And so you'll notice that these questions don't focus on the teacher, but it focus on the program, right? The plan, the process by which your child is going to improve. And so those are the kind of questions you want to ask. And you may also want to discuss items that may not be academics. So you can say if your child has been changing campuses at the end of the school year, you may want to include something in the IEP about how the school supports smooth transition, especially with kids with ASD. It's important that they have smooth transitions. Um, if your child has been bullied, you may want to know what's being done to eliminate bullying. You can ask those questions. If your child doesn't have friends in school, ask them, how are you supporting social skills? How are you supporting his development in peer relationships? So those are questions that still don't attack teachers and doesn't attack the personnel, but it's like, what are you going to do to help my kid be successful? And so you may also want to include information from IDEA that supports your priority items. And so that's why it's important for you to include, to get familiarized with 1508 and 1730 and 1530. So that's part of our meeting section. The other thing, again, is to educate yourself, familiarize yourself with your child's rights, right? Make sure you have a written notice of the meeting. Again, go back and look at your child's evaluation, talk to other parents, talk to your local Family Step and Family Center, and then do some research, right? So there's never anything ever wrong with doing research. And then you may have parents that have gone through some of those similar things that you've gone through, and they can kind of say, well, this is what I did, right? And give you some pointers on that. So all of those things are truly, truly important. All right. Again, I told you in this meeting section, you're going to have a section for your IEP team members. And so the IEP team members include the parent, the gen ed teacher, includes a special education teacher, it includes an ODR or official designated representative. If your child's having like an initial evaluation or a reevaluation, you should have an evaluation team member there. Your child should be there or the student, and then other individuals who may have knowledge or expertise regarding your child. And that's like your OTs, your PTs, your APE people. So any of those people can be part of your IEP team. And so that's why the contact list is important, because all of those people that I just named, you need to have, if they have contact with your child, you need to be able to have contact with them, whether through email or whether that's through the phone. So the reason why we say students, sometimes your child may have something to say. So sometimes it's important for them to be there. I think, especially if they're old enough, by the time they're in third or fourth grade, they pretty much can talk and say what they want or say what's helping, because the kid knows what's helping and what's not helping. So what good would it be to have a strategy put in place that's not helping the kid, and they can say, hey, this is not helping me, but yeah, but this is it helped, this has been proven, it has blah blah blah, right, has this research behind it. But if it doesn't work for that kid, then we got to try something different. All right, also part of the meeting section, questions, notes, concerns. Stay calm and ask questions. You can ask as many questions as you want. One thing that parents forget to do is value yourself as an important member. You are important. You and the baby. So the baby is the most important, but you are right next door, right? You're second to that, your child. Value yourself. You are an important member of the team. There's no need to feel intimidated. And I know sometimes when you get in that room, there's 8 people on one side of the table and you're on the other side by yourself and you feel intimidated. No, take your dog on agenda and your IEP binder and let them feel intimidated, right? So there's no need for you to feel intimidated because your input is important. It is so important what you have to say. Again, you're the one that knows the most about your baby. No one else knows as much about your child as you do. This is important too. Try to stay calm. I know there are times in the meetings that you just want to go off and they've made you angry and they've said things, but stay calm. If you disagree with what's being said, and you're unable to stay calm, take a break. You can stop an IEP meeting. I don't know if y'all know that, but you can. You can say, hey, I need a moment. And you can step away. Because if you feel yourself getting heated, it's better to step away, take a break, or reconvene. It's like, okay, we're going to have to end it today and we can reconvene at another date. You feel free to do that. Everything doesn't have to be decided that day just because they set the meeting for that day. You have rights. So anytime you don't understand something, ask questions. If you ask a question you don't understand the answer, that doesn't make sense, keep asking until you get it. If you don't agree, it's okay. Even if you don't agree, they need to understand what your position is. And so sometimes parents found that it's difficult to stay focused and not to get emotional. But we want to tell you, we want you to think of this as a business meeting, right? And you're going to meet a group of individuals to discuss important things about your child. And so dress professionally, go in. Don't come in with your pajama pants and your rollers. Listen, I said it. Don't go. You hear me? Don't go in there with no pajama pants and rollers, right? But go in there, professional, like you're going to a job interview or whatever. But you want to look the part because you're going to fight on your child's behalf. And the entire team is just human. They're just people. Um, and people can judge people incorrectly. So that's why we say, try not to wear your pajama pants, your rollers, right? Go in because you want to walk in demanding the respect, just in the way that you dress and just the way you carry yourself. So you need to put yourself in the best place mentally to accomplish that goal. And we always say, if you look good, you feel good, right? All right, so here's a sharing time. So what are some things about your child do you think it would be important to share with the IEP team that would be helpful? Maybe some of the things that I said, or maybe something I didn't say. So what do you think that would be helpful when it comes, or what do you think parents should be able to tell the IEP team that you think will be helpful? Y'all have any ideas?
So while we're waiting on them to enter something
Mhm.
into the chat, what would you think would be helpful? Share your experience.
Let's see. So one of the things with my kids, I always let them know what their meltdown looked like. I always thought that was important because not all of them are going to cry and be loud. One of my kids, he just starts rubbing his head and scratching his head, and he's melting. He's stuck, but you can't really tell, because he's not making a noise or anything. And so I thought that was important for them to know when the kid is shutting down.
Okay, Nicole entered into the chat strengths, weaknesses, likes, dislikes, triggers.
Ooh, I like that one. The triggers. I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's important for people to know. What are their triggers? That's really good. Thanks, Nicole. All right, so our next section is going to be the correspondence section. So in this section are all your letters, anything that you receive from the school or the service providers. It can also be used to keep copies of letters that you've written to the schools or the service providers about your child. This section also includes sample letters that can be used when writing to the school. So I want you to know that also included in the IEP binder, I do have sample letters of various items that you might want to discuss. There's a sample letter, listen, there's a sample letter that you can write following a phone call, right? So you have a phone call, and the letter just reiterates what you talked about and what you discussed about it. So they can't say, well, I don't remember. You like, we talked about that. And they say, well, I don't remember that conversation. Well, if you email right after the conversation with this sample letter, oh, see, they can't say they didn't talk to you or they don't remember. I don't recall. They'll have to recall because you've typed it up and sent it back. So in the correspondence section, I'll include some sample letters that you can use um, to reach back out to people. So that's pretty cool. And so we want to talk about documentation is important. If it's not written, it never happened. All right, so that's important. That's a rule of thumb in special education if it did. So you don't want to have any regrets. Man, I should have said this. Man, I should have did this. I should have did that. Right? So write it down. If it's not written, it did not happen. Do not sign giving consent if you don't agree with everything. Be assertive but not aggressive, right? So don't go in yelling, right? Um, but be assertive, let them know what you want, matter of factly, but you don't have to be aggressive because you don't get very far being aggressive. And do not agree to a meeting without the appropriate team members present. So that's important. Um, Again, if it's not written, dot, dot, dot. So get your evaluations, reevaluations in advance. Ask for copies of goals and objectives being proposed. You can definitely ask for that. Ask for any reports from doctors or service providers that need to be discussed at the meeting. Ask for a copy of behavior intervention strategies, right? Look it over. What are you trying to propose? Are we changing the behavior plan? So that's important to know. And it's important for you to have information about all of that stuff. And you can keep all of that written correspondence in the IEP notebook under the correspondence. And then you can do a brain dump, right? So anytime you have a meeting, you want to write down everything that you thought was important that maybe you didn't. Go back through your notes, look over that, send follow-up correspondence if you need to, but just write all down the important information, just kind of dump your brain on paper and keep that in your IEP notebook as correspondence. The rest of these sections go pretty fast. I just wanted to spend a whole bunch on meeting sections. All right, so now we have the consent section. All right, so the consent section is anytime you're asked to sign, guys, anytime you asked to sign any kind of form for any kind of service, can we do this? Can we do an FBA? Can we do this? Can we do that? Anytime you're asked to do anything, and that's anywhere, even if it's with Families Helping Families, because we have a consent form. And so whenever you're asked to sign anything, get a copy of that and put that in your consent section of your notebook. Ask questions before you sign and get a copy of all consent forms. Important. All right, and then you have the evaluation section. All evaluation reports are put in this section. You want to put the most recent evaluation on top and the oldest on the bottom. Evaluations are supposed to happen every 3 years. Every 3 years with a child with an IEP, you have an evaluation. So you get another report. And so you just put it on top of the old one. And put it under your evaluation section. And you can also put evaluations from other places. So let's say you take your child to behavioral specialist and you get an evaluation there. You can also keep that there. All right, so the IEP section. So in the IEP section, that's the individualized education plan. If you have IFP, IFSP, that's individual individualized family service plans, or you may have a 504. These all are put in that section. Again, you want to put the most recent on top. The behavioral intervention plan is kept here. Any disciplinarian notices may be kept here as well. Then you have a medical records section. So here, now if you have a child that has extensive medical issues, you may want to have a different medical notebook. But if it's just like, general medical issues, um, immunization records, vision and hearing screenings, other medical records, including like prescriptions, or you want to keep those here. So you have them handy at your fingertips. Okay. So again, here's another question, opportunity for you guys to participate one more time. What are some ways to effectively facilitate communication with the IEP team, parents, and or teachers? What do you think are some good ways to communicate, make your voice heard? What are maybe some suggestions that you have that you think will be helpful when communicating? I personally um, think sometimes, especially when kids are younger, having a parent notebook where a parent school notebook that may go back and forth to school. I think sometimes that's helpful. Um, do you guys have any suggestions on communication? Because sometimes that can be difficult between school and home.
Let's see. I don't see anything in the chat right now.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead into the next section, which is your financials. Your school report section. And so in the school report section, this is where you want to keep your progress reports. You want to keep your report cards. If your child is receiving any special services or help that's not documented on the IEP, the IFSP, or the 504, it's important to put some sort of documentation in this section describing the help and who provides it. This is also a good section you may want to put if they're having um, outside care, like if they have an outside speech therapist or an outside OT or outside ABA, and you want to keep some of those reports in there. That's a great place to put them. And then we have the financial section. And so this section is where you keep the type of you keep like things like your W-2s, maybe a tax form, payroll stub, or some services require proof of income, right? So you'll have this at your fingertip. You can have your doctor, dentist receipts. They may be tax deductible. You may want rent receipts or maybe a front copy of your lease agreement, just in case they need proof of address. Maybe childcare receipts, Medicaid card copies, and this is a section that before sharing the information with anyone, you got to make sure there's a legitimate reason for sharing because you don't want to just share things in this section at random. This section is for any anything like eyeglasses, hearing aid, other equipment receipts, insurance policies. That's what the financial section is. Utility bills, which is another receipt of that shows where you stay. But then it's all right there at your fingertip. You don't have to go to the car, look through your purse. It'll already be there. Other records section includes sample schoolwork and your awards that you may have for your kids. So this is a simple section. So I always say everything is better together. So if we homeschool, work together, it equals, it has a great partnership. And the IEP process can only be successful if everybody works together, everybody's ready to listen, everybody's ready to communicate with respect. And at the end of the day, everybody should be there for the same reason, and that's to help your student achieve his or her greatest ability. And IEP meetings are not about winning or losing, and they definitely don't want to be combative, right? Um, and so parents and teachers can be critical of one another, but acknowledging where things are going well and build on those things is really good, and it makes for a great um, IEP meeting. And so again, it's all about working together to make it better for the kids. And so one of those ways again is to make sure we're organized and have ourselves together. All right, so here's some different resources. We have the bulletins that are in LDOE, those bulletins that we talked about earlier. There's also a blank IEP form just to kind of familiarize yourself with what that looks like. And then those parental safeguards I talked about that should be in your media section. This is where you go to get that. All right, so let's do our check-in one more time. Let's see how you feel now. See if you feel better after we went through all this wonderful stuff. Okay, so number one says you feel confident in knowing how to prepare for your child's IEP meeting. Do you agree with that statement? We should have more agrees maybe this time. Number two says you know how to write a good parental statement of concern. How do you feel about that now? Do you feel like you can write a better statement now than before?
Okay, we're getting some agrees coming in.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yes.
Yay, okay. You understand how to get organized. You have a better understanding about how to prepare your IEP notebook.
Agree.
Awesome, yay. You understand why it's important, or each section is important, and what goes in each section of this notebook.
Yes, we're getting some agrees, and they can't wait to set up their binder.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And so also, do you feel better about being assertive, about, having, I think the binder is going to empower you a little bit more, right? Um, you, you come in like you're going to a meeting, coming in like a lawyer. You got your binder.
The binder is going to be like the shield.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yes,
Yes, it's gonna be
yes,
like your shield.
yeah.
You coming in with your super probably got your shield up. I
Okay.
like that.
We have
That's
some agrees and some yeses.
perfect. You guys are awesome. All right, so some of the handouts I will make available to you guys. Just make sure you fill out that evaluation form so I can make sure you get all the sections of the binder as well as um, all those wonderful sample letters and all the pieces that go in with it. So not only are you going to get the sections, but you're also going to get the extra things in there with it that all you have to do is just fill in the blanks. So I'm super excited about sharing that with you guys. I hope you feel like you're better equipped to communicate effectively. Um, and then, of course, our contact information for families helping families. All right, so now it's time for you guys to do a little bit of evaluation for us. Miss Chanel will drop it in the chat for you, and you literally can check on the link even while we're still on. It'll just take you to the evaluation really quick, so you could fill that out while we're on. Like I said, it only takes a couple of minutes, if that long. It may not even take you that long. Just kind of tell us what you thought. How did this help you, and how can we make it better?
And there is a correction, Latanzia.
Uh-huh.
Now the evaluation is done with Zoom. So after this
Oh,
webinar ends or whenever they click off, it will automatically pop up.
perfect. Oh, that's cool, Chanel. We've upgraded. So if you complete the survey, you'll get a copy of the PowerPoint if you like it, certificate of attendance if you need it, as well as those binder inserts. So that's a big deal. So we want to tell you how much we appreciate you. Do you have any questions whatsoever for us?
So Misty did say, will there be a way we can go back and watch this to take notes? Absolutely, Misty. So as soon as this is over with, it will be, well, not as soon. It's probably gonna be a little while, but I will upload it to our YouTube channel tonight. So just go to YouTube and search Families Helping Families Region 7 and it will be there.
Awesome. Any more questions for us?
And if you don't feel like typing it in the chat, if you would raise your hand, I can unmute you. Since we have a small group tonight, I can unmute you and you can ask your question. If you don't feel like typing it in the chat, or if you can't type it in the chat, just raise your hand. I don't see anything, Latanzia. I guess you covered it so good, they don't have any questions.
Okay, well, cool beans. Well, we appreciate you guys for attending. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Please check www.fhfregion7.com to check for any of our other webinars. Check Facebook. Um, coming up, but we'd love for you to come back and join us for another one. And again, if you have any suggestions for any, let us know. But we want to thank you and tell you how much we appreciate you for attending tonight. We hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thanks again, guys.
All right, thank you, Latanzia. And everyone, Latanzia will be doing another webinar at the end of September called Effective Communication. So just be on the lookout for that. If you haven't joined our email group, you can do that at our website at www.fhfregion7.com, or you can just be on the lookout for it on our Facebook page. And again, we want to thank you guys for coming. Thank you for your awesome participation. It was so much fun, and
Yes, yes.
enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
Bye.